Welcome back to the Last Word Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Gabert, here with my partner, Nick D-Ray. And today we will be giving you guys our way too early picks for the top 5 MVP candidates for the upcoming NBA season, which reportedly will start on December 22nd. So basketball should be coming back pretty soon here. Looking forward to it. So let's get right into it. We're going to work our way up from 5 to 1. Least likely to most likely of our top 5 candidates to win MVP. So, Nick, you want to start us off? Who's your 5th pick?
Okay, so obviously this is up to debate, and obviously this might change with the rest of free agency and trades and all this stuff. So teams might change, chemistry might change. But at 5, I have Stephen Curry. And I know Stephen Curry's coming off an injury, but this is still our OG Stephen Curry, averaging like nearly 45% from 3. He's a phenomenal three-point shooter. This team that's built around him doesn't have the perimeter defenders it used to have to help him on defense, with Klay Thompson out with injury. But offensively, you have a lot of scorers on this team. With Kelly Oubre, you got Andrew Wiggins, you got Wiseman, who's actually a really good scorer.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this team is going to have no trouble scoring. But the defense on the perimeter is definitely going to be lacking a little bit. But Curry is still the same old Curry. He's a phenomenal scorer. He's a phenomenal shooter. This team is definitely a threat to be a top 6 team in the West. I mean, it's still Stephen Curry. I mean, what else can I say? He's won 3 championships.
Redefine the game of basketball.
Redefine the game of basketball. You got to put him at number 5 for me.
Yeah, so I'll just say this. I put Curry at my number 4. I totally agree with you with just about everything you said, right? Phenomenal shooter, phenomenal scorer. His stats are going to be great this year. I think we'll see this year what we were hoping to see last year with, him without KD coming back as kind of like the main man in their system. He doesn't have Klay this year, which should, lend to him getting more shots and putting up better stats, even though they might not have as good of a record. So, yeah, I got Curry at 4. But my number 5 guy is James Harden. Again, I know there's a lot of uncertainty around like where he's going to play this season, what's going on. Nets, Rockets, nobody really knows. But the thing is, James Harden has just finished in the top 3 of MVP voting so many times in like the last 5 years. I think it would just be ridiculous to count the guy out. He's fresh out of season averaging upwards of 30 points per game for like the 3rd straight year. He's a ridiculous scorer. His defense has improved. He can shoot, he can drive, he's automatic at the free throw line. So I think Harden, just because of his gaudy stats and the way that he's been right in the MVP race every year for the past couple of years, I got to keep him in my top 5, even though I don't really know what's going to happen this upcoming season.
I agree, but the problem with me is that I can't currently put Harden on this list for sure because I personally don't know where he's going to play next season, if he's going to play next season as much as he could for like an MVP run. Especially if he goes to the Nets with 2 other phenomenal players in Kyrie.
Yeah,
and
if
KD.
he goes to the Nets, I don't think he wins the MVP.
I don't think he's going to win the
think
MVP at all.
End up happening.
If he goes to if he stays in the Rockets, I still doubt it because I think this team's definitely going to have some chemistry problems. But I kept Harden out of my list. But at number 4, I did put Damian Lillard, and I'll tell you why I put Damian Lillard. And that's because I think this Blazer team definitely has a shot at going a top 5 seed easy in the West. I think they're a great team, phenomenal bench. They work well together with Nurkic. Rocco is going to be a huge fit at the 3. You got Melo back, you got CJ, and you finally have a really good bench to fit with them. And I think Dame, his stats might be down from last year, and his stats were incredible last year.
I think last year was his peak stat year. I think this year they're going to fall now that you've got Nurk coming back, you've got Rocco, you've got bunch more bench stability where he won't have to carry the load offensively as much. So,
but I think he's still going to carry it offensively, and I think this team has a very good shot at being a top seed in the West, and I don't think you can just keep him out of the MVP race if that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. If they finish with like a top 2 or 3 seed, I think Dame will definitely be in the MVP discussion. I think he's closer to like a 6 seed. So we'll just kind of see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm.
So Dame was your 4, right?
Yes.
So we've already talked about our 4s and 5s because my 4 was Curry, my 5 was Harden. So I'll move on to my number 3. I put LeBron James. LeBron's incredible, almost won the MVP this past year. Again, I think they made the right choice giving it to Luka. It's a regular season award, not a playoffs award. I think we've talked about this in past videos if you want to go check that out. But anyways, LeBron is an incredible playmaker, led the league in assists last year at age 35. he still should be right up there, especially now that they've added even more scoring options in Trez and Schroeder. But again, it's hard for me to not see him declining at least a little bit. And you've got guys like Giannis who are incredible and Luka still ascending. So I'm going to put him in top 3 because I'm not really sure how much he'll slide off, if any, this year. And he didn't win the MVP last year, but he's still going to be right in the thick of it, especially considering the Lakers should have the number 1 seed in the West again, and he'll probably be their best player.
The thing is, I'm worried about this LeBron winning MVP. I don't think he's going to win MVP this year, and I didn't put him in my top 5. And the reason why is because
you're a hater,
yeah,
and you're disrespectful to LeBron.
You look at the Warriors, right? That was a super team, and I really do think this Lakers team is becoming a super team in a way. And I think he personally will get less of the share of them being such a great team simply because they now have a ton of really good players coming off the bench, a ton of great players in their starting lineup. So I think even though in past years the best player wins on the best team usually wins the MVP race,
yeah,
I don't think it's going to be the case this next year simply because his team is so great and that's going to kind of take away from where he is. For me at 3, I got Nikola Jokic, and the reason why is because this Nuggets team has been really good over the last couple of years. They have been, they have been very impressive. I know Jamal Murray isn't really he isn't really a regular season type player, but Jokic is, and he's also a very good playoff player. But I think this team has a bunch of good young talent. I think they're again going to be right up there in the top 5, top 3 seed.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be a high seed.
And I think he's definitely he's definitely the best player on that team right now. Jamal Murray's kind of starting to make his way up there, especially proving his case in the playoffs. But I think this team is going to be very good, and I think Jokic is going to get a lot of the credit for that team because he simply runs their offense. He's their rebounder. He's their passer. He's their playmaker. He's their scorer. He really is everything to that team, and I think they're definitely going to be right up. He's definitely going to be right up there in the MVP race, so I have to put him at my number 3.
Yeah, I get that. Jokic wasn't really on my list just because, a lot of people last year were kind of proclaiming him as like the Star Horse candidate who could come out and win MVP, and all of his stats kind of went down. Mm-hmm. The Nuggets were good, but they just weren't like as impressive, as much of like a wow team as they were the year prior when they went from kind of nobodies to a top seed in the West. And again, I think the bubble was Jamal Murray's coming out party. I expect him to be a lot better and take more of the offensive load this upcoming season, and Michael Porter Jr. to progress. But again, Jokic is a great player, and like you said, he does a little bit of everything with the facilitating, the rebounding, and the scoring. So my number 2 player I have is Luka Doncic. This guy's statistics were nuts last year. He was averaging pretty much a 30-point triple-double, right? He's incredible. He can play make. He can shoot. Obviously, his efficiency as a shooter isn't great, but he takes a lot of tough shots. He can score. He can rebound for a guy who's really not athletic.
And it's not like he's hogging rebounds. He's like legitimately getting rebounds.
Yeah, it's really a cool thing to see. And he's not good on defense, but, defense hasn't really held back MVP candidates in the past. So I think Luka should be right there. I expect him to, honestly, a lot of people are saying, like, wow, if in year 2 he's averaging 30, 10, and 10, imagine how great he's going to be. Like, no disrespect to Luka. I don't see him getting much better than what he was last year because there are so few players in the history of the NBA who have ever gotten better than 30, 10, and 10.
Ridiculous.
Like, Luka's great. I don't expect him to jump to 40, 20, and 20 because, like,
his efficiency might go up a little bit.
Yeah, but if his efficiencies go up a little bit, if the Mavericks finish with a higher seed, which I think will happen with Kristaps, Josh Richardson gives them a bit more size and defense on the perimeter. Mm-hmm. I know they lost Seth Curry, but they didn't really need shooting as much as a team like Philly. They needed a bit more like defense. So I like the Josh Richardson addition. I think Luka will help this team get probably like a top 3 or 4 seed in the West and have incredible stats, be an MVP candidate.
Okay, so I'll tell you my number 2 right now is Giannis. And the reason why is I think the last 2 years, the MVP voters all agreed that Giannis was the MVP. But I don't think it's going to happen this 3rd year. And I'll mostly say because it's what happened in the playoffs and how he's been underperforming in the playoffs and how everyone's like talking about how MVP should include the playoffs. I personally disagree with that.
I mean, it's a regular season award.
It is a regular season award.
And it's like, I think they made the right choice in giving it to Giannis, but I can understand why all these voters are feeling like man, he really doesn't seem like the best player come
Exactly.
playoff time. It just feels wrong giving him the award.
100%. And that's why I think he's not going to win MVP this year. I think he'll be close. I just don't think it's going to happen again. It might happen again in a few years from now. I don't think it's going to happen this next year because it's definitely his name has been kind of under the water a little bit more since, not performing that up to standards for an MVP candidate in the playoffs. But my number one pick, I'll say this, is Luka. And the reason why I have Luka at this number one is because I think without Kristaps next year, I think he's actually going to do statistically better. One, because he's in the draft and with trading for Jason Richardson, his defense on the perimeter is going to look a lot better for him. So he doesn't have to worry about those kind of assignments. So he won't look bad. But his offense, he's going to be carrying the offensive load a lot more with Kristaps out. And
yeah, for sure.
That's why I think his stats are going to go up. His percentages might even dip a little next year. But when Kristaps come back, his percentages are going to be up again, and his assist numbers are going to be up again. But I think he's really going to go crazy on the boards and on the points next year. His assists might dip a little, again, as I said before. But I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. I think he's going to easily be in that conversation if he doesn't get injured, if everything goes correctly. I think he's definitely up there, and I think he's my favorite to win this MVP.
Yeah. So my number one's Giannis. We both have kind of the same top two, just flip-flop. For a lot of the reasons you said, like Giannis, the past 2 years, has had statistically some of the greatest seasons ever. PER off the charts. Points and rebounds, ridiculous. Efficiency's great.
Good passer, too.
Great passer. Defensive player of the year, too.
Yeah.
Like, top-tier defender. Top-tier. Like, he does just about everything on offense. He, play makes as well, just as a result of the defense collapsing on him driving.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I feel like there's a little bit of angst about voting for him just because of the playoff failures.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that may haunt him. But I think I just have to put Giannis at number one after 2 back-to-back regular season MVPs. So I think he's just I don't expect him to dip at all in production, although a guy like Luka may surpass him. So,
Yeah. Yep. I'm just a little still nervous about Giannis. I think Giannis could, knowing Giannis, he's a very hardworking player. This offseason, he might have worked on some of the things that he's been lacking on in recent years. I think the most important thing for him to have worked on is free throw shooting. If he gets his free throw shooting up, I think he will actually win MVP simply because he gets that free throw shooting up and it'll be more useful in clutch time. But I think Giannis is a great player. I just don't see him winning MVP with the angst from the voters last year. I think Luka's got my number one, and I think Giannis is definitely an easy up there choice too. But that's our list for MVP candidates next year. Way too early, but it's our predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Check out some of our other videos. This has been The Last Word.